welcome to the Earth Feels podcast.
I'm Rose.
And I'm Christine.
Welcome to Earth Feels, the podcast for people feeling overwhelmed by the endlessly gloomy climate news.
Where every week we have soul-based conversations about climate change and explore the idea that climate change may be happening for us as much as it is happening to us.
If you are ready to shift your focus and secure the future for our kids and our grandkids, then this is the podcast for you.
And yes, we do know how to spell.
Hello, it's Rose here with today's question. How do plastics contribute to climate change? Undoubtedly, you've seen that video of the sea turtle with a straw stuck in its nose. If not, I'll post it to this episode's webpage. But it's pretty horrifying. And yet, perhaps, just perhaps, it woke some people up to the effects that our use of plastic is having on the natural world. If you've been listening to this podcast at all, you know that I spend my winters here in California to be closer to my adult sons. And I'm privileged to be about 10 minutes from the ocean, from Coronado Island, where I walk several times a week for fitness and, truth be told, for mental health. The ocean gives us many gifts, and her negative ions help balance my overloaded nervous system. Not just mine, but yours too, if you should partake. You know that relaxed feeling that you get after you've spent time at the beach? Well, it's not your imagination. There's actually science behind why you feel chill. And I'll post a link to that too. But I digress. So I'm a beachcomber, and I walk with my head down, looking for sea glass or beach pebbles, sand dollars, shells, what have you. And this winter, as I've been walking the coastlines here in San Diego, I've been alarmed at the amount of microplastics washing ashore. These tiny little colored pieces of plastic left behind as each wave recedes. I took some pictures with my cell phone, and I'll put those up on the webpage too. I'm not talking plastic bottle caps or the errant tampon applicator, which, yes, I pick up and stuff into my pockets so I can dispose of them at the nearest recycle bin. I'm talking tiny, teeny tiny pieces of broken down plastic that most certainly are easily ingested by fish and waterfowl. And certainly we've all seen the horrifying photos of decaying sea life carcasses revealing plastic-filled stomachs. And as horrific as it is to see those photos and videos of dead birds and whales and know that we humans have killed them, it's another thing to experience this tragedy with one's own eyes. If you're like me, you've been buoyed and cheered by the work that's being done in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a gyre of plastic waste that's twice the size of Texas. And it's held in position by these ocean currents between California and Hawaii. But there are 5 such islands of disposable floating debris in our oceans. And in case you're thinking, well, that's a faraway problem, it's floating out in the middle of the ocean. Wrong. We now know that plastic is everywhere, including in the water we drink and the air we breathe. It's in inland waterways, on land. Our agricultural land is heavily contaminated with plastics. And yes, there are microplastics in the air we breathe. And plastic is more than just a pollution issue. It is also a climate issue. So plastics, for me, I've grown up with plastics. I think they came into being in the 50s is when they started. They've become an essential part of our lifestyle because they're durable and they're lightweight and they're cheap. But here's the thing. Plastics, even though they have many benefits, they originate as fossil fuels. And they emit greenhouse gases from cradle to grave. The Center for International Environmental Law published a report back in May of 2019 called Plastic and Climate, The Hidden Costs of a Plastic Planet. Again, I'll post the link. The report details the contributions plastics have on greenhouse gases, starting with the very beginning of its life cycle, which truly begins with oil and gas development. Oil and gas and coal extraction are the fossil fuel building blocks of plastics. And the extraction of fossil fuels, whether it's through drilling or fracking, is a carbon-intensive activity. And then there's the transportation. You have to bring these fossil fuels via pipelines, trains, trucks. All of that has huge, huge carbon footprints. In fact, it's estimated that 12.5 to 13.5 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent are emitted each year while extracting and transporting natural gas to create feedstocks for plastics. And that's in the U.S. alone. And then there is the land. For pipelines alone, about a little less than 20 million acres, about 19.2 million acres have been cleared for oil and gas development. Again, that's just in the U.S. So if you assume that a third of the impacted land is forested, that's 1.7 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide released into our atmosphere just as a result of clearing. So basically, we're taking all of the carbon from the trees and from the soils and introducing it into the atmosphere. The next stage of plastic development is in the refining. In a Center for Environmental Law report, again, I'll include the link. In 2015, emissions from manufacturing ethylene, the building block for polyethylene plastics, were somewhere between 185 to 213 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. That's about as much as 45 million passenger vehicles emit during an entire year. And carbon dioxide emissions from ethylene production are projected to expand by 34% between 2015 and 2030. So here we are in 2021. I don't have the latest stats for this, but from this report in 2015. So plastics are pretty damaging to produce, right? But that's only part of the story. About 40% of plastics are used as packaging. And so most of that packaging is meant for single use. You think plastic bottles, plastic wrap, shopping bags, the aforementioned straws, Solo cups for those college students who are listening. So pretty quickly, we're just tossing it. And then how do we dispose of it? 3 ways, it turns out. Landfills, incineration, or recycling. And obviously, incineration has the largest climate impact, and it's not good. According to the same SEAL study that I talked about earlier, U.S. emissions from plastic incineration in 2015 were 5.9 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And here's the kicker. If plastic production and incineration increase as expected, the World Energy Council projects greenhouse gas emissions will increase 49 million metric tons by 2030 and 91 million metric tons by 2050. So incineration, not so great. Landfills notably contribute the least to the greenhouse gases. Yet, they're pretty troublesome on their own because of their damage to the purity of the groundwater and the composition of surrounding soils. And I won't even be addressing environmental injustices in this episode, other than to emphasize the impact of the health of poorer communities of color, where these incinerators and landfills are predominantly located. So then we're left with recycling, or I should say, then we're left with the myth of plastic recycling, because once China was taking our disposables, but they're not anymore, and so there's basically no market for them. Milk jugs and soda bottles, maybe. Only 9% of the plastic ever made has been recycled, according to a study published in the Journal of Science Advances in 2017. Again, I'll include the link. There's an article that came out on NPR in September of 2020 entitled, "How Big Oil Misled the Public into Believing Plastic Would Be Recycled." And essentially, the industry, big oil industry, the fossil fuel industry, spent millions of dollars telling people to recycle because, as one top industry insider told NPR selling recycling sold plastic, even if it wasn't true. In fact, Larry Thomas, the former president of the Society of the Plastics Industry, which is now today known as the Plastics Industry Association, and one of the most powerful trade groups in Washington, D.C., told NPR, and I quote, "If the public thinks that recycling is working, then they are not going to be as concerned about the environment." End quote. Nice. So oil industry lying to the general populace? No. But I digress. So where we are now, as renewables continue to pick up steam, as wind and solar continue to pick up steam, fossil fuel companies hoping to continue their drilling and fracking ways are looking to pivot their business to plastics. In fact, Shell is building a multi-billion-dollar petrochemical plant in western Pennsylvania that will turn natural gas into building blocks of plastic. So plastics, if fossil fuel companies get their way, will continue to degrade the earth for years to come. Our hope lies in the hands of the consumer, us. As awareness and demand diminish for plastics, market forces will work against the petrochemical industry. So really, it begins with each one of us. We now know the true cost of plastics. And once environmental damage is factored in, plastic is not cheap. Fortunately, as always, we get to vote for the world we want with our dollars. Stop buying plastic. It's that easy. So this week's good news: ExxonMobil, BP, and other large oil companies announced this week collectively they have lost tens of billions of dollars last year, posting their worst performance in years, and for some companies, in decades. That makes my heart happy. For an action step this week, I would say keep track of all the plastic that you touch on a daily basis. Maybe write it down. Note how much of it is single use. Just become aware and then devise a plan to use an alternative as much as possible. For a sanity tip, start taking a bag with you when you go on your jogs, hikes, and walks. In Sweden, they call it plogging, and it's a fitness trend that combines jogging while picking up trash, plogging. They're also taking a palk is plogging walk, and taking a hike is a pike. And one other bit of excitement here, Christine will be taking a step back from Earth Fields for the next few months as her tapping courage wellness practice is exploding. I'll leave a link to her business website for you guys. She'll join us occasionally on air as her time allows, but until May, when she can reassess her time constraints, I'm taking the training wheels off and pedaling solo. I've got some exciting interviews lined up. I promise you won't be bored. So stick with me. Catch you next time. Thanks for listening. That's this week's episode of Earth Feels. Special thanks to singer-songwriter Kristen Hoffman for generously allowing us to use Song for the Ocean. Thanks for listening.
Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss an episode. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Children of the earth, I'm calling out. There's a mission for you and for me.